Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this one, I am taking a look at Miles, which is a character that is kind of out of place considering that this update was more for Warriors of the Sky, since Shadow Shell and War Tiger both got an upgrade. But as we saw from the sneak peek that came yesterday or the day before, the mid-month is a Spider-Verse or Spider-Man themed update, which is why he got an upgrade with this patch. With Shadow Shell getting a T4 this update, she is kind of the go-to of the three for PvE, and War Tiger having an iframe ignore is kind of the PvP one. So Miles feels a little bit out of place, but surprisingly enough, when I tested him, he had one of the highest base damage and best performances I've seen of a level 70 T3 character basically in the game. So if you don't end up getting Shadow Shell to level 80 or even T4, Miles is actually a really amazing character, as you'll see from the testing. Because the character was previously just T2, I decided to test him versus Thanos and Proxima first, and I have to say that he was one of the easiest clears I've had for a character with no damage proc and just testing out their uniform alone without the T3 upgrade to begin with. I completed stage 99 of Thanos with well over 2 minutes left, and then stage 99 of Proxima within 40 seconds. I was actually quite surprised, because usually characters either need to have a proc or I need to have some kind of really great timing in order to clear it in sub 60 seconds. One of the many reasons why he does so well versus World Boss Ultimate is because he has up to 5 seconds of paralysis that ignores immunity on the 4th skill, meaning that with a 16-second cooldown, that is basically 8 seconds with max cooldown reduction, you can almost lock down the opponent indefinitely, including Thanos on his first phase. Because of that, and because the ultimate can be instant cancelled and gives you damage accumulation for damage dealt, I was able to take down Thanos in pretty much 2 minutes, or about a minute faster than when I didn't have the T3 skill. Versus Proxima, the all defense down that ignores immunity applies, which is the reason why he clears that so much faster, and I was basically able to clear it in 30 seconds or about 9 seconds faster with the ultimate skill unlocked. I'm pretty sure that if you have a damage proc, you could actually beat this fight in well under 5 seconds. For people that have transitioned into playing just World Boss Legend, the World Boss Ultimate feats might not seem that impressive, but his strength carries over in World Boss Legend, as you'll see from the testing here. With an incredibly basic build, being just level 4 Urus, no damage proc, and no artifact, and without using a damage leadership or support, I was able to clear Knull in under 2 minutes, or with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left roughly. From all the different characters that I've tested so far, I don't think I've seen a single one be able to clear Knull in under 2 minutes, or in a minute and 40 seconds even, with no damage proc and with such a basic build, and no leadership or support. Because of this clear time and the fact that he doesn't really have an iframe ignore, the character is clearly positioned to be amazing for PvE, even possibly surpassing some of the highest T3 characters like Kamala Khan and Shuri. So if you are considering building the character for PvE, you actually have a ton of options there as well. The character is actually fairly proc friendly, meaning that you can use a CTP of energy or a CTP of destruction, and because he does element damage, you can also use a CTP of judgment. However, in modes like Giant Boss Raid and scoring modes like Alliance Battle, I'm pretty sure that a CTP of Rage will still be your best option. However, in things like World Boss Legend, a CTP of Judgment may be your best option there. Again, even with the basic build that I have and no damage proc or a leadership or support, I was still able to clear stage 24 of Knull with around 20 to 30 seconds left. I was curious to see how high I could push him, and the highest that I got was stage 40, and I was able to clear it with 10 seconds left with no damage proc. If you're wondering how he does so well, it's because he has a ton of buffs on his uniform. He has 30% increased base damage, 20% increased element damage, 25% ignore dodge, which is really good for climbing to those higher stages. He also has 10% chain hit damage, 35% increase damage from the frenzy buff, as well as a 100% damage increase to a single skill from his 4th skill, On top of that, he also has a ton of damage accumulation from the ultimate skill. But if that wasn't enough, the reason that he is so insane is because he has 120% additional damage to villain types, which is basically like having 3 supports built into his kit. If you think that's it, he also has the leadership tag, which means that you can make use of one of the best supports in the game, being White Fox, which gives him a ton of additional damage versus villains, as well as additional chain hit damage on top of his own 10%. If you're thinking that this doesn't really matter because he'll always fall short to T4 characters, you have to keep in mind that he just got his T3 now, and that he will be featured in the Across the Spider-Verse movie sometime in the summer, I believe. And with the Into the Spider-Verse movie that came before, he did actually get a uniform for it, even though it was a Sony movie. So he might actually get another uniform, or potentially just a T4 then, which would possibly make him the most broken and strongest PvE character in the game. That's obviously just speculation on my part, but regardless of that, the character is amazing in PvE and has some decent value in PvP as well, as you'll see in a little bit. Also, for those wondering, Miles was faster than Shadow Shell on stage 9 of Knull by around 30 seconds, and even in Giant Boss Raid, he was able to clear the first phase in about 1 minute and 20 seconds, which surprisingly was also faster than Shadow Shell at level 80. And for the most part, he was beating the first phase about 40 seconds faster than most other characters without a damage proc. Even though I didn't use a proc, I feel that the most ideal rotation for him, even if you're using an energy or destruction or a rage or a judgment, would be to instant cancel the 3rd skill and then go into the 5th skill and instant cancel that into the 4th skill. You ideally want to finish on that skill because it has that 100% increased damage and because it is one of the longer animations. You can quick cancel the 1st and 2nd skill if you want to fill up your ultimate a bit faster, and you can also use them after your rotation while you're waiting for the skills to come back off cooldown. However, once you get access to your ultimate skill, the rotation that you want to use is to instant cancel the ultimate skill and then go back into the regular rotation of 3 cancel, 5 cancel, 4. I don't necessarily think people will use Miles in Alliance Battle Extreme for the speed hero restriction, since you have access to so many other characters, but if you do want to use him, he does have all of the cancel effects, including silence, paralysis, and burn on his ultimate, so you definitely can use him there. Again, with no damage proc, I was actually able to score almost 9 million with him, meaning that if you equip something like a CKP of Rage for him, you should be able to score past the 10 million mark, and with a maxed out build, you could possibly reach somewhere close to 11 million or possibly more. Because the character has 120% increased damage versus villains, I wanted to see if he had any potential in PvP. However, my results with a CTP of Authority were kind of mixed, mostly because he has a 2-sided issue. On one side, you kind of need invincibility or a survival-based build, because his 4th skill is really the only skill that can take out opponents, mostly due to the 5th and 3rd skill being low priority and often getting cancelled or interrupted. So if the character doesn't go into the 4th skill, maybe because the opponent went into an iframe first, then you need to be able to survive long enough for you to be able to actually use that skill. On the other side of the issue, he doesn't have penetration in his kit, meaning if you're facing opponents that have invincible in their kit or in their build, then you're going to struggle to be able to take them out because you can't go through it. Sometimes you can get lucky and have the skill hit hard enough to actually kill the opponent before the invincible activates, because that 120% additional damage to villains basically acts sort of like a proc. For that reason, in game modes like Alliance Conquest, I would probably recommend a CTP of Authority for the character. However, if you want to double down and also get usage for him in PvE, then a CTP of Destruction is your best option there. I haven't really had a chance to test Miles much in Alliance Conquest, however, with Spider-Woman lead and Scarlet Spider support, I was able to solo characters like Doom, Hela, Morgan Le Fay, Thanos, Mephisto, and even Dormammu. In this clip, I didn't quite finish off Hela, even though it got really close, and in the other clip where I soloed the bunch of characters that I mentioned, That clip got corrupted, so unfortunately I can't show you his performance there. So if you're not really interested with the character's PvE performance, if you use something like a CTP of Authority, you can see that you can get some value out of the character in Alliance Conquest. That is my breakdown of Miles Morales. If you're wondering whether you should pick up this uniform or even upgrade him, if you don't really have many T4 characters or even level 72 characters to level 80 characters, then Miles Morales at level 70 T3 is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest character in the game. Even though there might not be too many in-game restrictions that he qualifies for, just as a speed type, the character will more than likely give you a ton of value. Try out something like a CTP of Judgment if you're trying to push World Boss Legend stages, or use a CTP of Rage if you want him more for Giant Boss Raid and Alliance battle scores, or if you want him more for the Alliance Conquest side, then use a CTP of Authority, and if you want a little bit of both, then use a CTP of Destruction. The next video that I'm going to be taking a look at is War Tiger, and that'll probably be done sometime over the weekend, since the next Spider-Man themed update is the following week, and those videos will follow after that. Because the War Tiger video might be a little bit short, I might also include some test footage of me using Shadow Shell with a CTP of Judgment, since people have asked about that. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check out the next video. That pretty much wraps up this one. If you did like the video, then please let me know by hitting that like button and possibly subscribing and sharing it with other people to help them out and help my channel grow. I always appreciate people taking the time to watch these videos, so thank you, but the video is now over.